Ladies and gentlemen, every generation has a game that defies explanation. A moment when a player steps beyond the boundaries of logic and enters the realm of pure creativity. This is one of those games. It's 1960. Two of the greatest minds in chess history sit down across from each other. One, calm, prepared, a technician of the highest order. Mikhail Botvinnik, a champion known for his depth of analysis, deep preparation, and unwavering control. Across from him, his polar opposite in style, a young man, only 23 years old, brimming with energy, confidence, and imagination. Mikhail Tal, a player who seemed to rewrite the rules with every move he played. Game 6 of their World Championship match would go down as a legendary encounter. Not because of blunder, not because of fluke, but because one player dared to play on the edge of reason, and it made it work. The game begins with calm development, an opening that suggests order and symmetry, but it doesn't stay that way for long. On move 14, Tall sacrifices a knight, not for checkmate, not for material, but for initiative, for pressure, for momentum, for the chance to unbalance the board and pull his opponent into the unknown. That's exactly what happens. From that moment on, the position becomes a minefield. Every move Tall makes piles on the pressure. He brings every piece into the attack with purpose and speed. He leaves his own king exposed, uncarried, because all that matters is the attack. It's not just calculation, it's intuition, it's feeling, it's a style of play that cannot be taught, only born. Botvinnik tries to hold on, to defend, but he's not given time. Tal keeps the initiative burning, moving with the kind of rhythm that comes somewhere deeper than theory. Pieces after piece joins the assault, and suddenly Botvinnik's position is falling apart. Tal doesn't let up. There's no mercy, no slowing down, just relentless pressure until the position collapses. What makes this game unforgettable isn't just the final result, it's the way Tal orchestrated it with courage, with harmony, with complete trust in his instincts. It's a masterclass in attacking chess, a lesson in what it means to play with heart. This game is more than one. It's a reminder of how beautiful chess can be when one player decides to throw caution into the wind and play for brilliance. This is Mikhail Tal versus Mikhail Botvinnik, World Champion, Game 6, 1960, a game for ages. Let's relive the magic. And so, with that mood, let's dive into the game. As I mentioned, this is the World Championship. Mikhail Tal, Mikhail Botvinnik, a really popular one. I would recommend you check out some of the other games. Those are really cool. But today we're going to be covering the center of the show. Game 6. This was, it's just a typical Mikhail game. The magician from Riga, by the way, is his nickname. And he sacrifices a knight on move 14, which just shows that Tal is talling. And, well, there's no other way to play if you're tall. So, we have Tal is black, so let me just flip the board right here. And Mikhail is obviously a C4 player. Actually, if you didn't know, you can search up the Botvinnik system. He made a system actually based on C4, which was really popular. And overall, it's a pretty good system. I got recommended to me once, but I don't like the English, so I'm an E4 player. But the Botvinnik system is really good, so you should start playing it. We have knight to f6, so this is the I think it's the knight variation or two knights, a symmetrical knight variation. And so it's kind of symmetrical, like a King's Indian fianchetto variation, for example. But now black castles, and if white castles, d6, I play this variation actually sometimes. And it's a King's Indian if they play here. But usually what's really annoying that English players know the feeling of being a King's Indian player and not having d4 c4 instead d3 c4, but the typical idea should still remain the same because every time an opponent makes a move, you don't have to completely worry. You're like, oh no, this move isn't in my theory, I'm completely cooked. Well, you probably are cooked, but you're not completely cooked. If you play the right things, then you're fine. How you should take this is that you should look for what kind of squares are weak and how you should target them. You have a dark squared bishop, which is to your advantage in this position. Now you should be looking, and you notice that the dark squares are pretty weak because white built this pawn structure where most of his center pawns are on the light squares. So the central dark squares are weak. Correction, not all of the dark squares, because there's still a pretty even balance here. And you know to target the central dark squares. So immediately a move like knight to d7, a slow plan, which is also really good, knight to c6 or knight to d7, followed up by knight to e5 or knight to d4 when the knight moves. So then you have to think what your opponent is going to do. Because many people just think that their opponent is like you. They're like you. They don't know how to do things in life. They just play moves. They're not just an inanimate object. They're literally a player. They're going to obviously think the same things as you. They're also human. They're not just nobody, of course. So, taking that into what was that? Into account, you have to think about what your opponent is going to do. Your opponent obviously knows that his dark swords are weak, and just a piece of advice. A typical plan here, I'm just going to point this out because it's pretty needed. Even if you don't know anything, you should know in d3 and c4 setups, they kind of like to really take advantage of the light squares. So they're probably going to play knight to here and kind of a similar thing. And sometimes they really like to put their bishop on b2, but in this case it's not possible, so nothing to worry of. Also, you may notice that this bishop is actually pretty inactive. It doesn't have any squares to go to. f4 is met with e5 in the future, and the bishop is forced to flee. g5 is met with h6, and therefore there's really no plan unless you want to go like queen, like bishop d2, queen c1. I'm just gonna um, go back a move. So unless you want to go, I'm just gonna do this first, and then so there's no more lines. Yeah. So now it's more clear. So if you want to go bishop d2, queen to c1, bishop to h6, that's pretty garbage move. So probably your best shot here is a typical idea, which is, let's just say e5, bishop to e3. In this case, it's not great, but um, I don't know why people mainly play this variation. Maybe I'm just missing something. Maybe it's to provoke h6. I don't know if that's good for us, but maybe it is. So I guess bishop to beat g5 would be a good move. And then h6 is the only move, and then bishop to e3. So the idea is now queen to d2, of course. But now your central dark squares are a bit more stable, while the bishop now has a great square and it doesn't have any problems. But of course, that's a really hard thing to get because your opponent would have to play e5 and not h6, and then you would have to play d3 variation. But um, Tal transposes into one of the most common variations that can be transposed. This is the fianchetto variation of the King's Indian. That's why it's really vital to learn because this can occur from two openings rather than just one. And we have d6, and typical, I like the system more than the knight to c6 system or the a5 system, which is also kind of goofy, or the c5 or c6. That's a Benoni, by the way. And this is a sideline where you try to play queen to b6 and stuff. Uh, I got recommend this. I got recommended to this once, but I don't like it at all. Rather than that, it's much simpler to just play this. And this is just pretty annoying because white has this sometimes, which I just don't want to deal with. So bishop knight to d7, and the basic idea is pretty simple: rook to 8 and e5, striking the center and opening up the dark squares for the bishop. Castles e5. That's exactly what happens, and you might be questioning if um that is this really great because you're opening up this whole diagonal, and unlike our bishop, it's blocked by two things. So white's bishop is not obscured by anything. Well, this is actually pretty primal for us because um so if they take obviously that, but let's say they play, I don't know, like, well, queen takes d8 is actually the only move, because if you play anything else, this is just stupid because there's various bishop moves. You might see here, no, actually there's not, because there's c6 and queen to c7, easily blocking. And this is a position you can play out. But remember, with black, you really want to draw. So the King's Indian, it's pretty sharp, but in its core, some of its variations are actually relatively boring, which most people say, but it's just positional. And so King's Indian is not just like all attack, by the way. I just want to tell you that. E4, this is now transposing into a sort of closed Petrosian with e4 and c4. I mean e5, c6, and now this just denies the Petrosian, because if you play like this, then um I think there's the main move here is either takes. I think takes is one of the variations where you try to play, not that, where you try to play the structure, but I'd say this is more for Benoni fans rather than uh, me, because you can't move this knight or you'll really get overrun. So I wouldn't play c6 in the first place. Great is to just play rook to e8 and wait, because the Petrosian system is a pretty garbage system, I would say. Sorry, Petrosian lovers, because um even if you get your rook on, firstly this is bad because there's this. So even if you defend your pieces with queen t3, queen to c2, I mean, it's not that good because it looks like white has a lot of space. If I flip the board, I always like to do this to think from the opponent's side. If you flip the board, it kind of looks pretty nice, but really you achieve nothing. Your position looks nice, but black overall has the advantage because your bishop can't move anywhere. Bishop to e3 is one possibility, but then b6 easily counters it, for example, is one of the moves. And overall, it's just better for black. So that's why the Petrosian kind of sucks, to be honest. But we have h3, and the basic idea is to prevent. Um, I don't really know. I think they usually just play this because why not? But I'm pretty sure it's to prevent knight to g4 or bishop to g4, because black is basically not doing anything. Except black is, because queen to b6. This is this from either side. If you're playing c6, you should know that you're gonna follow it up with queen to b6 indefinitely. So queen to b6, it's pretty nice move sometimes, putting pressure. But what I really hate is that, I mean, queen to b6 systems are nice, except for the fact that there's bishop to e3, and the pressure is turned up usually by white, which gets sometimes annoying. cd5, we have d5, cd5, knight c5, and how black is supposed to counter this is just to block like this. But then there's always a3 and b4, which sometimes gets annoying, but people play this. And knight to e1, which is not a great move. I would just play bishop to e3, restricting the bishop, but this isn't great because there's takes obviously first. So, yeah, I guess this is fine plan. Yeah, I guess this is actually better. I just didn't see the pawning. But he is going to play bishop to e3 after. I'll promise you. So, knight to d3, trading off the knight. He wants to trade off because this knight is pretty good. And as you can see, this bishop, which was supposed to be great, kind of has dispersed its power and is no longer great. This bishop is really only doing the job. It's the only person or piece that can do anything, really. So white is just going to try to trade off all of black's good pieces and then take care of this queen later. Knight takes d3, queen takes d3, and rook to b1. So bishop to e3 is now a threat. knight to h5. Potential plans of h5, but as you'll see later, this is actually not. But didn't I promise you on move 14 there would be a knight sacrifice? Whatever. Okay, whatever. Was there a knight sacrifice this whole game? Oh, there was, but this is like on move 26. I don't know what my intro is doing. Okay, I know what I was doing, but there is a knight sacrifice. I promise you that. Um, so knight to h5. There is a f5 ideas, but this is usually a garbage move because f5 is really risky when your opponent literally has like two bishops staring down the side of the board. This bishop can easily join with bishop to f3, and the queen could easily maneuver to the queen's king side without any doubt. But tall is tall, and I'm not tall. Bishop to e3, and as I said earlier, bishop to e3 is definitely going to be played. And it may look like immediately, okay, you spent like 20 moves trying to prepare bishop to e3, but I promise you that this is completely worth it. Now the queen has no purpose in life like you and is searching for a job also like you. So, um, the queen is actually pretty much trapped except for this square, which is not exactly going to help you that much. So the queen has basically no mobility. And white's queen, now he's going to take advantage of this kind of stray piece on the king side. And rook to c4, opting to build up. And so that means Tal is going to bring over his pieces on the queen side and try to distract Botvinnik from the king side. We have rook to c1, just placing pieces down, defending the knight. Not that complicated. Rook to c8, rook a to c8, king to h2. You might be like, wait, why didn't he play bishop to f3? I mean, look, it looks like a decent move. Well, he hangs his pawn. And you might be like, well, he doesn't hang his pawn, but you can prepare. You can prepare for it with this. And now this is going to be attacked while this is hanging. So it's a double attack. So he prepares the idea with king to h2, and now he defends his pawn. So bishop to f3 is a potential idea. But before Botvinnik can do anything successfully, Tal lashes out with f5, and now it's kind of weird. Tal's playing style is, I mean, obviously it's insane, like everybody knows, but it's really interesting when you study it because usually you're typically told to play on one side of the board. Choose one. Center, flanks, either flank. This is really garbage showing. Or king side. You choose one. And if you don't, you're just bad at chess. But it's like Botvinnik, I mean, Tal can choose even all three of the sides and somehow be successful. It's really interesting. So he opens up the king side, and now he's using his pieces on the king side, which looked kind of astray, to counter Botvinnik's pieces on the king side. This is really interesting stuff here. And rook to a1, so threatening a fork, which Tal easily deals with the knight sacrifice. Knight to f4, and the point is now shown. And because, firstly, free tempo, you can't deny tempo, and these bishops, while Botvinnik's pieces are just really laying around and taking a nap. Free pawn, by the way, too. Won't deny free pawns, and Botvinnik's position is completely falling apart. And I mean, then you should see the conversion. I feel like many people don't know how to convert these kind of positions. What happened? So we'll just look at the conversion quickly. So this is a more positional type, and so, I keep on saying and for some no reason. So Botvinnik sacrifices his rook to try to escape Tal's wrath, but it is short-lived because f3, counterattacking, and diverting the queen away from the board. You might be like, um why can't I just simply take here? Well, because the bishop is free. And if you take here, then this rook is now free, first of all. But secondly, you may ask, why can't I just play this here? Well, it's because now when you take, uh, wait, one sec. So bishop takes f3, bishop takes b1. If you play the same thing, wait, what's the difference? Okay, I think it's sort of some. Oh, it's because you have here now bishop to e4, which traps the queen. And if you do the same thing here and try this, you can capture here. Wait, why can't I capture here too? Okay, this is like really confusing stuff. That's literally just the difference. Yet, I don't know. Oh, so see, you have a Zook when you sack. This is like insane stuff. Like, Tal is like literally insane. Like, how do you see this? And the point is, when you move your king anywhere, the bishop is now free. And if you were to take the bishop in this position, then you simply lose your rook. Because now that's so cool. Okay, I don't know. That's just kind of tall sacrifices. Like I spent 20 hours looking for what that meant. But it's just so cool how they're like these hidden gems. You might just assume it's a sacrifice, but you don't really look at it, and then you see how cool it is, really. Fe2, and Botvinnik sees all of that, which is also pretty impressive. So he knows to take, and he defends his knight. After that, rook to d4, pretty simple move, attacking, and now there's um, continuing the pressure. And now this is just simply lost. I don't know how anybody could lose this position except you. And I mean, as black. So therefore, we have a few more moves, but eventually, Botvinnik falls. You might. It's also pretty cool how he can win this position because of the pressure. Like you might think of winning as a material advantage, but it's pretty cool how positional advantages can also win you the game pretty easily. You have a few more moves, but eventually Mikhail falls under the pressure. You can probably just check out the full game if you want to see it. But he falls to the pressure, and this rook ended game is losing because you cannot stop pushing the pawn. Thank you for your viewership. Like and subscribe. See you later. And now get out of here.